Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillahi, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Welcome back to our program, Freedom in Al-Islam. In our last episode, we were talking about Al-Islam. And the reason why we were talking about Al-Islam is because we wanted to give the proper understanding and the proper concept of Al-Islam. There are different people who have hijacked aspects of our religion, the religion of Al-Islam. And they make the tashwih of our religion. They give a bad example and a bad image of our religion. For an example, I remember when I first embraced the religion of Al-Islam, my mother, may Allah Ta'ala give her hidayah, she saw some people who claim a connection to Al-Islam. They were mutilating themselves and inflicting pain on themselves. They were hitting themselves in the head with swords and with razors, and they were cutting themselves, and it was blood all over the place. When my mother watched that episode on the news, and they were actually mourning and celebrating at the same time, she became concerned, and she said to me, "Is this your religion?" I told her, "Ya Ummi, mother, this is their understanding of Islam, their interpretation of Al-Islam." Also, where I come from in America, there are a group of people who call themselves the Nation of Islam. The Nation of Islam. They're a group of African Americans like myself who felt that they were oppressed in America in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, even up until now. But back then, they felt that they were oppressed, and the African American experience was one of slavery and oppression, and Christianity was forced upon us. And we were told, as I used to believe, that Jesus was the son of Allah and he was a white man, and that Moses and Ibrahim, all of the prophets and all of the angels, they were depicted and they were presented to us in the form of white people. So these group of African Americans, they came and said, "We're Muslims and we're from the Nation of Islam." And they said that all black people are good and all white people are no good. White people are devils. And this is what they believe. So this is their understanding of Islam. So we want to give the narrative of true Islam. What and how is freedom in real Islam? The Islam that's supported by the Quran, and Islam that's supported by the Sunnah, so that no one will come and say or accuse me and say, "But this is your interpretation of Islam." What I am interpreting as Al-Islam can be understood based upon verses that I can present to you from the Quran and statements that I can present to you from the Prophet Sunnah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. But again, I repeat and reiterate, there's the third part. I have to present those verses and those ahadith, and they have to be in accordance to what the companions understood. Because anyone can come and take the Quran and give his own interpretation to Islam. Anyone could take the Sunnah and give his own interpretation to Islam. But we have to take the Quran and the Sunnah and put along with that the interpretation of the companions, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, and Ali. May Allah be pleased with all of them and the rest of the companions. So Al-Islam, what is it? We told you that one of the great scholars of Al-Islam, one of the definitions that has been given for Islam, and it is one of the most complete, is Al-Islam is al-istislamu lillahi bi-ta'a, submitting to Allah with tawheed. Submitting to Allah with and by a tawheed. وَالْإِنْقِيَادُ لَهُ al-istislam lillahi ta'ala bi-tawheed, submitting to Allah with tawheed, establishing his oneness, worshiping him alone. وَالْإِنْقِيَادُ لَهُ بِالطَّاعَةِ, and doing what he told you to do, obeying his rules and regulations. When he said do this, you do it. When he says don't do that, you don't do it. Making halal halal and haram al haram. And the third one, al-bara'atu min ash-shirk wa ahlihi. In order to be a real Muslim, you have to free yourself from polytheism. And you have to free yourself from the polytheist, the people of a shirk. And each one of these three components, they have their explanation. But very briefly, to scratch the surface of the explanation. The first component, al-istislam lillahi ta'ala bit-tawheed. There are many Muslims who they claim that they submit. They are Muslims. They submit to Allah. But they don't submit to Allah with tawheed. Where I live at right now in the UK, if you were to travel to many places in the Muslim world, there are Muslims who write on the window of the masjid, Ya Allah, and right next to it, Ya Muhammad. People who make dua to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. People who make dua to the great Shaykh al-Islam, Abdul Qadir al-Jailani, rahimahullah. People who make dua to Ali ibn Abi Talib, radiyallahu anhu, I say, bila shak wala rayb. He is from the awliya of Allah and he's in the Jannat al-Firdaus. And we love him and we love the people of Ahlul Bayt. And you're not a real Muslim if you don't love him and you don't love the people from Ahlul Bayt, from the companions of the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There are those people, when they have a problem, they say, Ya Ali, al-Madid, al-Madid, and they make dua to Ali. Or they make dua to saints who they think are people who they think are saints who are in the grave. People who slaughter for other than Allah. They swear by other than Allah. If he says, Wallahi, he may lie. But if he says, one Nabi, I swear by the Nabi, he will tell the truth. So he's making al-istislam, he's submitting, but he's not submitting with a tawheed. Submitting with a tawheed, the Muslim is the one who submits his will to Allah with the tawheed. He is far from a shirk. He is hanif. He is hanif. He avoids shirk. He avoids setting up and erecting partners along with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the second component is that the person has to make al-inqiyad. He has to do what Allah told him to do. The man came and he said in the famous hadith, Ya Rasulullah, tell me something in al-Islam that I only can ask you. Rasulullah, he said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, qul amantu billahi thumma istaqim. Say, I believe in Allah, and then be upright. Do as you say. Don't just say it and you not do it. And that's why we have all of those ayat in the Quran. Many ayat, many ahadith. The whole surah that everybody memorized, Surah Al-Asr, that Al-Imam Al-Shafi'i said, rahimahullah, if Allah only revealed this surah, it would have been enough for Bani Adam, for mankind. Wal-Asri, inna al-insana lafi khusran, illa alladhina amanu wa amilu as-salihat, wa tawasaw bil-haqqi wa tawasaw bil-sabr. Allah said, by the Asr time, I swear by Asr, or time itself, all of mankind are in a state of loss, with the exception of those who believe and those who do righteous deeds. They believe and they do righteous deeds. And they mutually cooperate upon the haqq. They advise each other to do the right thing. And they also advise each other to be patient. So those ayat, they all mention, many of them, الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ. They believe and they also do the righteous deeds. The people of the Sunnah, Ahl Sunnah, the Imams of Al-Islam, of the past, like the four Imams of the Madhahib, like Al-Imam Al-Bukhari, those Imams, Al-Imam Al-Shafi, Al-Imam Malik, Al-Imam Ahmed, Al-Imam Al-Bukhari, Al-Imam Muslim, these great scholars of Al-Islam, when they talked about Al-Iman, they said, Al-Iman is the statement that comes off of your tongue. Al-Iman is having belief inside of your heart. And Al-Iman is those things that manifest on your limbs. They manifest on your limbs. He's going to pray. He's going to fast in the month of Ramadan. He's going to wear hijab. She's going to wear hijab. He's going to make halal, haram, haram. It goes up when a person obeys Allah. And it goes down when a person disobeys Allah. Al-Iman is not just in your heart. It's in your heart, but not just in your heart. It has to come out in your limbs. So there were some Muslims who came and they said, Al-Iman is just to believe. Just to believe. It's in your heart. It's just to say. If Al-Iman was just merely saying, then the munafiqun, the hypocrites, are mu'minun. Because they say, يَقُولُونَ بِأَلْسِنَتِهِمْ مَا لَيْسَ فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ. They say what is on their tongues, that which is not. They say with their tongues, that which is not in their hearts. Even Fir'aun is a believer if Al-Iman is just on your tongue. Because before Fir'aun was destroyed and he was drowned, he said, Amantu bi Rabbi Haruna wa Musa. I believe in the Lord of Harun and the Lord of Musa. He said it. He pronounced it. But it wasn't in his heart. It was never on his limbs. And he was going to be from those people who are in the hellfire. So the second component of al-Islam, al-inqiyadu lahu bit-ta'ah, is that we have to be obedient to Allah. And that doesn't mean that you're from the malaik and you never make mistakes. Part of being obedient to Allah Azza wa Jal is to make tawbah from the mistake and the sin that you fall into. Kullu bani Adam khatta'un wa khayru khatta'in at-tawwabun. All of Adam's children, they make mistakes, they sin. And the best of them are those who make tawbah. So the second component, brothers and sisters, is to make al-inqiyad, to obey Allah and what He told us to do. Don't be of the people who just say, I believe, and my heart is pure, my heart is white. Hey, if your heart was truly pure, and it was truly white, then it would come out on your limbs. So Allah Azza wa Jal, He made tawbih and al-mu'akhadha. He talked firmly and He talked in a negative way in rebuking the people who say what they don't do. يا أيها الذين آمنوا لما تقولون ما لا تفعلون كبر مقتا عند الله أن تقولوا ما لا تفعلون. Oh, you who believe, why do you say what you don't do? It is a crime. It is bad in the sight of Allah that you say what you don't do. When the Prophet came to his people, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the prophets and the messengers, salawatullahi wassalamu alayhim ajma'in, when they came to their people, they used to say to their people, وَمَا أُرِيدُ أَنْ أُخَالِفُكُمْ إِلَى مَا أَنْهَاكُمْ عَنْهُ. I don't want to go against what I'm telling you not to do. I don't tell you to do something and I do something else. So when we come back, inshallah azza wa jal, we'll complete this segment. Barakallahu fikum wa ahsanallahu ilaykum. Assalamu alaikum, welcome back. Before we parted company due to the commercial break, we were talking about the three components of al-Islam, the ta'rif of al-Islam, the definition of al-Islam. And we came to the third one, which is al-bara'atu. We did the second one, which is to do what Allah told you to do. Now we come to the third and the final one, as we expound upon and we investigate collectively what is freedom in al-Islam and what does al-Islam have to say about freedom. We come to the third component of al-Islam, its definition, al-bara'atu min ash-shirk wa min ahli ash-shirk. That as a Muslim, I have to free myself from ash-shirk, and I have to free myself from the mushrikeen. I have to free myself from polytheism, and I have to free myself from the people who are the polytheists, and that has an explanation. This is clear in the Quran and is clear in the Sunnah. And this is a vital aspect that many people don't understand from this ummah, who may fall into this and compromise it, and they don't even understand it. Al-bara'atu min ash-shirk wa min ahlihi. Freeing yourself from shirk and from the people of ash-shirk. There is a surah in the Quran that is called Surah At-Tawbah. The other name for Surah At-Tawbah is Al-Bara'ah. Al-Bara'ah. The surah of freeing yourself from the disbelievers. And it is one of the last surahs that has been revealed in al-Islam. It came down in the last part of the life of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the days actually before he died. And one of the ayats in there, Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned, وَأَذَانٌ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ إِلَى النَّاسِ يَوْمَ الْحَجِّ الْأَكْبَرِ أن الله بريء من المشركين ورسوله. Allah has made a proclamation, an adhan. He has declared, He has made it known on the day of Al-Hajj Al-Akbar, the day of the big Hajj, when the Prophet ﷺ performed Hajj at the end of his life, and it is called Hajjatul Wada', the farewell pilgrimage. The ayah said, on that day, Allah has declared to the people, on this day, when everyone was at Hajj, that Allah is free from the mushrikeen, and His Rasul is free from the mushrikeen, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam. So this lesson came down at a very critical time, so that there would be no doubt in the minds of the Muslims during that time until Yawm al-Qiyamah that there is al-Bara'ah. There is a separation between al-Islam and Kufr, a separation between the Muslimun, the Muslimin, and the Kafirin, the Mushrikeen, separation. Some of the non-Muslims, when they saw that al-Islam was growing from the Meccans, the hostile non-Muslims of Mecca, Abu Lahab, Abu Jahl, Umayyah, Ibn Khalif, they are the Imma of Shirk and Kufr and Dhulm. And Islam was growing, they couldn't stop it. They tried to stop it forcibly, but they couldn't stop it through force. They tried to do all kinds of tricks, lie on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, try to get him to break contracts. When they saw Islam continue to grow, they tried to bribe him. They tried to bribe him. They came and they said, Ya Muhammad, we agree to worship your Allah, Allah by Himself. We'll worship Him 1 year with you, and we won't make shirk, and we won't worship our idols, under the condition that you come and worship our idols the next year. Just come on, Muhammad, just agree. It was a bribe. Now the person who is not thabit, the person who doesn't know the significance of a tawheed, the individual who doesn't know the evil and the danger of a shirk, some of the political Muslims today, some of the Muslims who don't know the principles of al-Islam, of how to weigh the benefits and the harms, when you can agree to a contract with a non-Muslim and when you can't agree. Muslims who are like this would have been quick to say, oh, that's a brilliant idea. They've been fighting us. They've been opposing us. They've been killing us. They're doing all of this. Now they are finally coming closer to us. Okay, we'll agree. But the Prophet wasn't like that, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. In one of the battles he was going to wage, actually he was on the way to perform the battle. And it was the practice of the non-Muslims of Quraysh that in order to get strength to fight their enemy, they would take their weapons, their swords, their spears, their arrows, and they would tie those weapons on a tree. And they used to ask a god, an idol, to give them power because of that tree. They thought that the weapons would get supernatural, superhuman strength if they did this, and they believed in this. Some of the companions were with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They were new Muslims, Bedouins, not Abu Bakr and Uthman, Ali, not them. Abdurrahman ibn Auf, Zayd ibn Harith, and not these people. They were the new Muslims. And everyone makes mistakes, especially people don't have a lot of knowledge. So these new Muslims from the companions, may Allah be pleased with them, they say, Ya Rasulullah, ij'al lana, make for us a tree like they have a tree. They're going to be stronger than us. So these Muslims were new to Islam, and this was one of the practices that they knew before Islam in Jahiliyyah. So they wanted an equal playing field. Already they're more than us in number. We can't allow them to be stronger than us in their weapons. They say, make us a tree where we can do our weapons and tie our weapons the way they have a tree. The Prophet became angry, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said, you people have done, you did the same thing that Bani Israel did to Musa. Rahimallahu akhi Musa. You people, may Allah have mercy on Musa. Bani Israel did the same thing. When Musa went up the mountain of Tur and he received the parchments from the Torah, and Bani Israel was left down, they took the ijl or the calf as worship in the absence of Musa. thinking that the cow was going to help them, making shirk. So the Nabi said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you people are doing the same thing that Bani Israel did. You're making shirk by asking me this. They call that the hadith of Dhatul Anwat. Now the point is, the political groups in Islam, the political groups, the people who their goal and the objective is just to get the chair, just to rule. I want my party just to rule. I want to be in charge. I want the kursi. They compromise this issue of a tawheed. If the non-Muslims come to you and they say, okay, we have a proposition, we want to make an agreement. We'll allow you to sit in the chair and to rule under the condition that you don't call to tawheed, under the condition that you don't divide the people by making the tawheed clear. Support the people who make shirk with Allah. They slaughter for other than Allah. They make dua to other than Allah. They legislate by other than what Allah has revealed. Just come on, just get with the program. A person who doesn't know the dawah and the call and the history of the prophets and the messengers, and his goal and the objective is just to rule and run the show, they're going to be quick to say, okay, no problem. But the Nabi, he didn't do that. In jihad, he needed all of those Muslims with him. He needed all of them. And it's easy for him to say, okay, I'll do it just to keep the numbers. But having a lot of numbers and the people are making shirk, what's the reward and what's the benefit of that? Allah will not forgive that you make shirk with him, but he'll forgive any and everything other than that. قُلْ يَا إِبَادِيَ الَّذِينَ أَسْرَفُوا عَلَى أَنفُسِهِمْ لَا تَقْنَطُوا مِنْ رَحْمَةِ اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبَ جَمِيعًا. Say to my servants who have made a lot of sins, don't give up from the hope of Allah. Don't despair. Allah will forgive all sins. All sins. The only sin that Allah doesn't forgive is a shirk. The non-Muslims came and they said, Ya Muhammad, we'll worship Allah alone 1 year and you worship with us our gods the next year. And we're going to lighten up the persecution. The Prophet ﷺ received the revelation of the Quran. قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ لَا أَعْبُدُ مَا تَعْبُدُونَ وَلَا أَنْتُمْ عَابِدُونَ مَا أَعْبُدُ وَلَا أَنَا عَابِدٌ مَا عَبَدتُّمْ وَلَا أَنْتُمْ عَابِدُونَ مَا أَعْبُدُ لَكُمْ دِينُكُمْ وَلِيَ الدِّينِ لَكُمْ دِينَكُمْ وَلِيَ الدِّينِ. Say unto them, tell them, hey, you disbelievers, I don't worship what you worship. You don't worship what I worship. I will never worship what you worship, and you don't worship what I worship. Lakum deenukum waliya deen. That's the meaning of al-bara'a. Al-bara'a. You cannot be a Muslim until you do this. Free yourself from shirk and free yourself from the mushrikeen. You have, you Muslims, a perfect example in Ibrahim and those people who believed with him, when they all said to their people, verily, we disbelieve in you and what you worship along with Allah, and we are free from you and from what you worship along with Allah. And there comes between us and you enmity and animosity, until you worship Allah alone. And this figure, Ibrahim, is the Khalil of Allah. وَاتَّخَذَ اللَّهُ إِبْرَاهِيمَ خَلِيلًا. Allah took Ibrahim as a Khalil, a friend. He is mentioned in the religion of the Jews and the religion of the Christians. And in his story in the Torah and his story in the Injil is this incident, that he freed himself from shirk and kufr. So it's not acceptable for my mother, who's a Christian, to say that Jesus, Isa, is the son of Allah. And she's claiming that she believes and she follows Ibrahim. Ibrahim was Hanif, leaning towards at-Tawheed and leaning away from al-Kufr. So we have to free ourselves from the mushrikeen, and we have to free ourselves from ash-shirk. Ash-shirk. Allah Azza wa Jal, He showed us that the prophets and the messengers, Ibrahim and other than him, none of them have a problem with freeing themselves from ash-shirk. None of them. And none of them have a problem with worshiping Allah Azza wa Jal alone. So what is the meaning of freeing yourself from the mushrikeen? Does it mean that we become antisociable? That we try to live on an island by ourselves? Does it mean that I cannot have decent, cordial relationships with my mother, who I love, and she loves me? Does it mean that I am living in the West, and as a result of living in the West, I disrupt the normal lives of the people by compromising the security, as some of the Muslims are doing? Does it mean that? No, it doesn't mean that. In our next episode, inshallah azawajal, we're going to explain what does it mean to free yourself from the mushrikeen, and we're going to get down further and deeper into the concept of freedom in al-Islam. So until the liqa, sallamakumullah min kulli su'in wa makruh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.